I wish I could tell you something else, but I can't. I can't because the path of the ambitious one, the path of the one who wants to become the greatest version of yourself, is filled with so much pain. It's filled with resistance. It's filled with doubt. It's filled with insecurities. It's filled with so many negative emotions, but yet they are the ones that we have to face. I kept running away from this fact for so many years, but it's the truth. This is what we need. This is where we grow. This is where we discover what we can really achieve and what we can really accomplish. The thing with this is that it doesn't have to start with the big pain. They can be small pains. It can just be you having to wake up early in the morning. It can just be you going to bed on time. It can just be you who needs to stop watching Netflix or cancel his subscription. That in itself will already bring pain. The mistake I've made in the past is to look for the biggest pain that I had to overcome. But how could I be able to overcome the biggest pain that was in my life if I didn't even know how to overcome the small pains? And this principle can be applied to whoever you are, whatever you do, whatever your goal is. Because there is some sort of resistance. There's some sort of decision that you have to make. There is some sort of decision that you have to make that is filled with resistance, but yet you know from the bottom of your heart that that is the right one to make, but you're afraid. You're afraid because of the pain that you will face. You're afraid of the consequences that will come out of it, the criticism that people will give you. Maybe you will have to reshape your identity. Maybe you will have to go down a path of not knowing what the outcome will be. And that's scary. And fear, more often than not, gets us to act in such a strange way. It gets us to act in a way that we limit ourselves, although we are not instantly aware of that limitation that we are experiencing. It's covered up in all of these reasons, all of these rationalizations that sound so logical, but they're not. They're not. Because imagine this, if you know where you needed to go, if you know the action that you need to take, if you knew what the consequences were of not committing to the actions, would you then still be making the same decision? Most likely, you would not. Because if you knew all of those factors and then had that moment lined in front of you, like the moment of decision, that like the moment that you had to cut the cord with something, whether that is a relationship that you have to end, whether that is quitting your full-time job in order to go full-time into your business, whether that is, I don't know, ending your marriage, cutting off a friend, leaving your home, traveling to a different country. They can bring so many negative emotions with you along the way. You may experience so many rationalizations and excuses that your mind is basically giving you to why you shouldn't. But they may be exactly the thing you have to do. They bring pain. They will challenge you. They will put you in an uncomfortable position. You will have to periodically go through a moment in your life where you will have to question everything that you're doing, but it's worth it. This is the mindset shift that I needed. I needed to make the pain worth it. So I needed to adjust my goal. I needed to know what my motivating why is. Why do I want to do it in the first place? I needed to know what actions I needed to take, and I needed to know the consequences of me failing to commit to the actions. That had brought me clarity. That doesn't mean that the fear disappears. That doesn't mean that the resistance disappears. That doesn't mean that the discomfort disappears. But it will create the sense of, oh yeah, this is what I need to do. It has pain, it has discomfort, but it's all for a reason. I know what I will get out of it. I know what the benefits will be. The benefits will be that I will then achieve my goal. One of the worst things that can happen is that you succumb to comfort. Because the moment that you are comfortable, you will start to become complacent and you will not start taking the actions that were necessary because you feel good. When life feels good, you don't really want to do that what is necessary. No, you'd think and you'd expect that when life is good, that you want to do more. But yet, we as humans don't really work that way. At least I haven't worked that way in my life at all. I have to purposely put myself in an uncomfortable situation so that I can make the progress that I want to make. I have to look for the challenging things because when I see a challenge in front of me, that means that I'll have to build up skills. Those skills aren't built in a day. They take time, they take years. I will feel pain. But I've came to a point to love it. Why? Because I know where I want to go. I know where I want to be. I know what is required of me. The mistake is to think that my life the way it is right now is good. I can be grateful for the things that I have right now. I can be grateful for all the beautiful things that I have in my life. But I may not forget the areas of improvement. I may not forget that if I become comfortable right now, that means that, in other words, I'm settling for that what I have right now. I don't want to settle for this. I don't want to represent to my children, to my family, that I'm somebody who settles for that what is in front of him. If you know that the situation that you are in is not the ideal situation and not the situation that you want to be in, but you still decide to, you know what, I'm still going to be in this position because I have X, Y, Z in my life. I have an income. I have a roof above my head. I have food. That's more than enough. Yet when you are an ambitious man, that's not enough for you. So when you try to settle for this, you will start to regret your life. You will start to regret everything that you have in your life, and you will not have any fulfillment. Because everything that you are doing, every decision that you are making is not aligned to what you can really accomplish. You will feel empty. That will lead you into depression. What's interesting with myself and with many people that I talk to, a lot of people that I know who smoke weed, who drink alcohol, they all have something that they once wanted to do, but they never did it. They never did it because they were afraid of feeling pain. They were afraid of going through an entire change because they had to reshape their entire identity. They had to sit there and ask themselves, who is it that I want to be? What is it that is required of me to do? And when the answer lies in front of them of what they have to do, they ignore it, they push it to the side, and no progress will be made. And then they remain stuck in the same position that they're in, knowing what they have to do, but they have just settled for less. The result of that will be that they will be depressed. When I was smoking a lot of weed in the past, when I sat there actually in this room, super high, unable to do the work, when I just came back from sitting outside in my garden for the entire evening, smoking weed, getting high, it was all fueled because I was making decisions that I wasn't happy about. I wasn't living up to my fullest potential. I had to look myself in the mirror and tell myself, Mark, what you are doing right now with your life is not the person that you want to be. But I kept ignoring it. I kept ignoring it. And weed was a tool for me to try and forget that. Every time that I didn't have weed, I would kind of go nuts. Why? Because I had to sit with the confrontational aspect of me, with the part of me that wanted to grow. But it was difficult. I knew back then that there were certain things that I need to do and I couldn't. I just didn't want to accept the pain. I didn't want to go through that emotion. I didn't want to be in discomfort. I didn't want to be challenged. I always thought that it was supposed to be easy. People said on the internet, people said that it was going to be easy. That when you know what you want to do, it is easy. And I get what they mean now. I get that when you know what you want to do, it gets easy. But they don't tell you what I will tell you right now. It's still absolutely fucking hard. The only thing that becomes easier is that you manage challenges more easily because you've been challenged continuously. And every sacrifice that you make, every decision that you make is then aligned to something that you want to do. And if you're not used to doing this in the beginning, it is absolutely fucking hard, the most hardest thing that you can imagine. And it will bring so much pain because you will have to reshape your identity. But then after a couple of times, after a year or maybe a couple of months, depending on who you are as an individual, but let's take the benefit of the doubt, give it a couple of years, at least 3 years, and see how you change yourself completely. The other day I was driving home from work, and there was a sticker on the car that said, "This is the way." This is a reference to the show The Mandalorian on Disney+. That brought me back to a time when I used to smoke a lot of weed. It brought me back to that period that brought me back to that period of my life where I was unable to go through pain, where I was unable to make the decision that would get me to change my life completely, to set myself up in a way that my future self could benefit off of it. I just saw it again, where I sat there in my garden, whether it was snowing, whether it was raining, whether it was windy and stormy, I would sit there, basically a junkie, getting high, watching Disney Plus, specifically watching Star Wars, binge watching everything and constantly looking for a new show that I could distract myself with so that I don't have to sit down and to hear my thoughts telling me of the decision that I need to make and the pain that I have to go through that would actually benefit me. So then, that made me a bit sad. It made me sad that I went back to that time when I saw that written on the sticker. But then I became happy. I became grateful because I was instantly reminded of, wait, that is the old me. That's not who I am today. I came from that. I came from being that person. I never read a book. I wasn't reading books. I was only distracting myself. I was smoking weed. I was wasting my time. I was not living up to my fullest potential. I didn't have core values. I didn't have a proper goal set in place. I didn't know how to sit with discomfort. I didn't know how to take on challenges. To now have spent 3 years doing exactly just that. To have started my own YouTube channel. To now be on my way to build my own business. To have successfully overcome my porn addiction, to have successfully overcome my weed addiction, to now be married to a woman that I wanted to be married to have not settled for less. I have nothing else to say but to be grateful for the pain that I had to go through. Every decision that I've made up until now has been painful, but the results are absolutely worth it. During my darkest period, I knew that I wanted to become better. I knew that it was going to be painful. Still, I decided to go through on that plan, through on that feeling, through on that realization. Even though I didn't want to, but I had no other choice. It was either go through the pain or live the entirety of my life thinking, what would my life have been if I just made that decision? Having lived an unfulfilling life, not living up to my fullest potential, because I was afraid, because I was allowing my emotions to dictate the course of my life. Nah, that is not the way that I want to live, and that's not the way that I want to go down. But for 3 years, I'd never realized the change that I went through. Never. Sometimes I had conversations with my wife and I explained the person that I was in the past. And she was like, I can't imagine you being that person. I can't imagine you ever having smoked weed once because you don't give off that impression to me. But deep down, I sometimes still felt like a connection to the past. I still felt like a connection, like I'm somewhat still that guy. Up until I read that sticker and went through everything and realized, like, fuck, I'm not that guy anymore. I'm somebody completely different. And that was a result of choosing pain. That was a result of choosing discomfort. That was a result of choosing challenges. That was a result of overcoming resistance. Of putting myself in a situation that I don't really know how to overcome it, but then building the skill to overcome it by being in that situation. That now it is a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer for me to choose this path. This is the way that you have to walk. I don't like to say it because it sounds so negative, but you have to go through pain. You have to make decisions that are painful. And if you don't know how to make the right decision, I have a free Skool community that is linked in the description box and also in the comment section. It's the first link. Go click that right now to learn how to manage your emotions and in order to make better decisions. Of course, in the beginning, it will feel like you don't know what to do, but let's work through that. Always remember that you have to go through pain, and always remember that you are 100% responsible for the results in your life. Make the hard decision today, and I'll see you in the next one. All right? Bye-bye.